Alright, what's going on, guys? Jarek back again today. I want to talk a little bit about a fad that is just absolutely all over the place right now in fitness YouTube and has been for about the past year. There's this huge new fad now where everyone's going to these anabolic diets, anabolic recipes, that sort of thing. Obviously, it's gained a ton of popularity with these cookbooks that are coming out. You know, Greg Doucette's cookbooks, Remington James Fitness's cookbooks. Other people are jumping on the train. Everybody's full steam ahead. Everything you gotta eat is anabolic. And at the end of the day, I'm sorry, but this is just like falling for the BCAA train, right? To maintain your anabolism, right? You know, you don't go catabolic, bro. At the end of the day, this is all not only non-advantageous but also dangerous to your diet and to your health. So I want to go over exactly why that is. So first of all, I want to say there's absolutely nothing wrong with eating a lot of protein. I eat a lot of protein. I eat about 200 to 220 grams of protein per day, up to 250 sometimes when I'm really deep into a cut. And it is fine. It's absolutely fine. I also have no problem eating protein. I like chicken, I like fish, I like steak, I like ground beef, eggs, egg whites, you name it, I love it. Protein powder, sure. I don't struggle to hit my protein requirements. I do, at the same time, understand that there are people out there who do. So these recipes that are extremely high protein, you know, to an extent, I think there's absolutely a place for them to help people actually meet their protein requirements on a daily basis. There's an argument to be made, of course, on how much protein you should consume at each meal. There's an optimal amount. But at the same time, it's generally been shown through a lot of the literature that it's more about total protein intake. As long as, you know, assuming you're actually splitting it up somewhat. You're not just eating 200 grams of protein at one meal and then 2 more meals of only carbs and fats. But I digress. Generally, these recipes are fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with them. And they are tasty and they're great. By all means, implement them into your diet, use them, enjoy them. I do as well. The issue we're running into here as a community now is this massive lack of fat. Everyone's terrified of fat. For whatever reason, nobody wants to eat fat. So I'm here today to be your fat cheerleader, right? You need to eat fats. And you might be saying, well, okay, that's fairly obvious. These recipes aren't without fat. For the most part, most of them are extremely low fat, because the idea behind the anabolic diet, the anabolic recipes, the anabolic cookbook, is that these are low-calorie recipes that are high in protein. And the way you make them high in protein is by adding protein to them, right? Take a normal recipe, throw a scoop of protein powder, add more chicken, whatever, who cares? And the way you make them low-calorie, the easiest way is to cut the fats, because fat is 9 calories per gram. Everything else is 4, alcohol, but we're not drinking here, right? The easiest way to trim a ton of calories is use fat-free, low-fat, whatever. So at the end of the day, what ends up happening is people eat these diets of extremely low fat, and you end up feeling like garbage, and you don't know why. Now, you might be asking, well, why can people like Greg Doucette or Remington James get away with this? And that's simply because they're on hormonal support. Greg Doucette's on TRT, he's very open about it. If you're getting your test from an external source, and your body's already shut down anyway to the point where it's not producing on its own, you don't need as much fat at the end of the day. So same thing goes for Remington James Fitness. Obviously he's on external substances. He's talked about it very openly, which I respect. So for them, yeah, low fat is fine, but for 90% of YouTube viewers, which are probably natural lifters, don't follow these diets. You can certainly implement the recipes, use the recipes, go for it, enjoy them, but if you follow some of these full day of eatings where, you know, they end with very little fat, you will feel like crap. You will crash your hormones, and it will take a lot of time to come back. And we've seen, actually, on the Greg Doucette subreddit, a lot of people debating this, discussing this, and complaining about it, quite frankly. And it's very easy to understand why. So I want to run through real quick just the keys of fat. What does fat do in the body? Why do you need to eat it? Now, there's an argument to be made, of course, with the omega-3s versus omega-6s. Most people get plenty of omega-6s. That comes from like your nuts, nut butters, seeds, and then kind of your crappier oils like sunflower oil, canola oil, that sort of stuff, which, by the way, probably want to just get rid of your sunflower oil, canola oil, all that crap, the polyunsaturated, the PUFAs. Get rid of as much of that as you can. Nuts and everything are fine, but that should be your sources of omega-6s. You'll probably get plenty. Omega-3s come from things like salmon, and generally a lot of people don't get enough of them, so they end up supplementing fish oil, and that's fine. Now, the rest of your fats, considering you only need a few grams of each of those per day, the rest of your fats are key sources of energy. Obviously, like I said, fat is 9 calories per gram. That's a lot of energy. It is a massive component in your hormonal creation and regulation of your sex hormones and your reproductive hormones, steroidal hormones, whatever you want to call them, in multiple avenues as well, actually. So they're directly responsible for production of these hormones, and also, in general, fattier foods also have cholesterol in them, for like eggs, for example, and cholesterol is also super important for production of a lot of these hormones, like progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, etc. So you can't fear fat, you can't fear cholesterol. Super important on your hormones. I've already mentioned it at least 3 times. Can't stress it enough. And then we kind of move down the list. So fats help with your metabolism, slight benefit. They help with your mood, brain health. They're actually super important for your absorption of a lot of different vitamins, which people don't realize. They don't understand, like, I can't just take a multivitamin, or why multivitamins aren't very good all the time. Your body can only absorb so many things at once, so generally multivitamins might include, like, let's say calcium and iron, for example, and your body can't actually absorb both at the same time, so it's kind of counterintuitive. But as far as like vitamin D, for example, most people are vitamin D deficient, so they just pop their 5,000 IUs every morning on an empty stomach, and they're not actually getting anything out of it, because vitamin D is fat soluble, as well as A, K, and E. You need to consume them with dietary fats to be able to properly absorb them and utilize them in the body. So not only does fat play these indirect roles, or these direct roles, but it also plays indirect roles in just your nutrient absorption in general. You know, people love to demonize, like, yeah, I threw a little bit of olive oil on my broccoli, and like, oh my God, you're just dumping calories on it. Well, there's an argument to be made that maybe it's a little bit more efficient to actually consume some dietary fats with those vitamins, those vegetables, in order to actually get the benefits from them that we want. And then last but not least, there's an argument to be made that fats are necessary for proper cell function. At the end of the day, the cell membrane is much regulated by fat. This isn't the biggest need. It's not going to require a huge amount of fat. Obviously, we're talking small amounts here, but it all adds up. And especially when you're natural and you're putting your body under a lot of stress, which is your weightlifting, cardio, whatever regimen, you really need to make sure that you're actually getting it everything that it needs to properly function. And I can't stress the hormones enough, because especially in a dieting phase, your body, that's like the first thing. If you think of just nature, that's the first thing it gives up. It's like, oh my God, I don't have enough energy. Well, the last thing I need to do is create offspring, right? Like, I can't even support myself. The last thing we need to do is reproduce. So hormones just gone. Right, and that's why we see natural lifters, if you track your testosterone through your prep, you'll start at like 700 and 400 and then like 150 by the end of it, and you feel terrible. And that's why you can't maintain like a sub 10% body fat year round, like people like Greg Doucette or whatever say, hey, maybe on your genetics you can maintain 9% like me year round and gain. No, probably not a good idea for most people. So anyway, I want to dive into a couple of specifics, and I'm going to pick on Remington James here. And before I do, I just want to say I do enjoy his channel, because I actually think a lot of the recipes he shows on his channel are, in my opinion, a little bit more creative, not so obvious, and that's just me. And I think they allow you some room, too, to kind of make them more your own. But anyway, I digress. A lot of his videos, in fact, every single one of his anabolic shredding meal plan diet videos, whether it's for a man or a woman, all end with, I think the most has like 40 grams of fat in a day, 41, something like that. That is absolutely nowhere near a sufficient amount of fat to be taking in for anyone, man or woman. This is kind of terrifying, quite frankly. And it wouldn't be that big of a deal if he was just showing the recipes, because again, you know, if you say, hey, these recipes are great as part of a healthy diet, sure, that's fine. But when you're selling this as a meal plan, like, hey, follow this on a daily basis to lose weight, get shredded for summer, right? Like, cool, dude. But you're gonna feel like shit, especially if you're natural. If you're on, you know, external hormone support, sure, by all means, go for it, man. But for most of YouTube, we're natural, and you know, we're not gonna wanna crash our hormones from our diet. There's actually one video where he literally says, and I quote, "I don't care about carbs or fat or veggies.
I don't care about my fat. I don't care about my carbs. I don't care about eating a lot of green vegetables, guys.
It's all about just getting enough protein and then how many calories. Calories in versus calories out." That's absolutely incorrect. Sound the alarm. Sound. I don't have an alarm, but sound it. You have to care about veggies. You have to care about fats, and you should probably care a little bit about carbs, right? Because at the end of the day, carbs are going to give you energy to get through your workout and to actually build the muscle. That's the whole point of this, right? I'm just throwing a little warning out there. Please, please, please don't fear fat. Eat some good fats. So I'm going to leave you with a couple of healthy fats that you can incorporate into your diet. These are good sources of fat, and some of them cholesterol as well. These are my favorites. Of course, it's not an exhaustive list, but they're things that I think everyone should incorporate at least 2 to 3 in their daily diet. Daily. Whole eggs, I'm a big fan. I do 2 at my breakfast every single morning. It'll give you fats, it'll give you cholesterol, as well as a ton of other micronutrients, an unbelievable amount of micronutrients. At the end of the day, think of it like I'm eating something that becomes an entire organism or an entire animal, right? Red meat's fantastic. Cholesterol, saturated fats in general, great source of protein, everything you need. Fatty fish, again, kind of the same thing. Salmon, especially, great sources of omega-3s, which are super important. Nuts and nut butters, again, these are kind of your polyunsaturated fats, so as long as they're not all of your fats, you should be fine, but feel free to incorporate them, completely fine. Olive oil, or olives, if you just like olives. I don't know why more people don't eat straight up olives, by the way. Sorry, a little sidetrack, but that's a thing. They do have whole olives. Those do exist. Avocados, avocado oil, you know, if you want to use that for cooking, that's fine. I believe it actually has a higher smoke point, which is really nice. Olive oil has a low smoke point, which denatures when a lot of people are frying stuff in a pan, so keep that in mind. Coconut oil, same thing, higher smoke point. Coconut in general, like coconut shreds, go for it. I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this. Butter, grass-fed butter, perfect. I'm a huge proponent of including actual real butter in your diet. And a lot of people are gonna say, oh my God, like butter that has so many calories. In reality, 100 calories worth of butter, one like tablespoon, it goes a long way. You'd be very surprised. And now where it becomes detrimental is when you cook with it. Cooking with it, you start coating the pan, and then you're throwing some more in, and then you turn your steak over and you throw another piece of butter in there. That's where it starts to add up real quick, and you throw like 300 calories worth of butter onto your meal, right? But when you finish a meal with a little bit of melted butter, or throw like a pat of butter in some pasta, 100 calories worth of butter adds a ton of flavor, and it's a great source of fat. It's a good fat. You can make stuff like clarified butter as well. If you're into that, go for it. And then last but not least is straight up dairy, fattier dairy, right? If you drink 2% milk or whole milk, if you tolerate it well, go for it. More fat yogurt, not everything fat free, go for it. I'm a huge fan of cottage cheese. If you follow the channel, big cottage cheese ice cream guy. Cottage cheese is another great source. So here's a nice list. Pick 2 or 3 a day, rotate them in and out, find things that go well with one another, and incorporate some fats. You might be asking, well, how many fats? I'm gonna give you a very general amount here. Generally speaking, for everyone, you want to be between 25 and 30% of your total daily calories from fat. So let's take me as an example, right? I'm eating 3,000 calories a day. 30% of that is 900 calories. That's 100 grams of fat per day. So for me, that's a little bit high. I generally stick between 85 to 100. So again, 25 to 30%. Now, the more calories you eat, you don't necessarily have to keep increasing. It kind of caps out. The absolute lowest I would ever take my fats is 20% of my calories or Or if you're really trimming down, for most people wouldn't recommend going below 50. I think 50 grams of fat is really the minimum. I've seen people do 40 to 45, and I think that's fine for a very brief period of time. For example, if you're in a dieting phase and you binge, you know, and you need to kind of pull back some calories for a couple of days in a healthy way, not a binge restrict way, maybe you pull your fats down a little bit because, you know, you likely fulfilled your fat during said binge, right? If you ate a whole pizza, you got plenty of fat. Believe me, your body's got plenty. Or if you're really, you know, comp prep and you need to trim that last 1 pound, right? Or those last 2 pounds, like maybe you just gotta drop calories that low and suffer a little bit. It does happen. Those are the only times I would really go below that. So keep at least 50 grams of fat per day, experiment and find something that makes you feel good, and then generally stick to about 25, maybe 30% of your total daily calories coming from fats in good sources. So other than that, guys, I know this was a long video, but I really need to get this out there because I know this fat is just absolutely everywhere and there's a lot of people struggling. So please, for the love of God, eat some fats and stay tuned for more videos. Thanks a lot, guys.